Hey guys, what's going on? DavidDarang here with another I'm Global podcast. This is your home for travel tools, learning how to sustain traveling, and also learning from those travel situations. And today I have a special guest on. She goes by the name of Deirdre, and Deirdre is currently living in Bali, but she's from stateside. Without further ado, let's head over to the interview.
Awesome. So I'm from South Carolina. I was actually born in New York, but not raised in New York. So I was born in Queens, raised in Columbia, South Carolina, and my father is from Nigeria. So I'm 50%, well, probably way more than that because I haven't done like my ancestry.com stuff, but I'm at least 50% Nigerian that I know of.
And the other side, just American or?
Yeah, so my mom is from South Carolina, African American.
Nice. South Carolina is so nice. Right away, when did you start traveling? Was it with family? When did that occur?
Okay, so I would say my first international experience was going to Nigeria for my grandfather's funeral. He died at like the age of like 111, which is amazing. So I'm praying that I get that longevity.
Wow.
And I get to live like a long, healthy life like him. But yeah, my first experience was around the age of 17, and like it was my first time on a long distance flight. My first time out of the country was like a long haul flight and like dropping into a completely different culture. We were like in the village in Nigeria, and I was just like, what is happening? Like, I couldn't even fathom a lifestyle so different from what I'd been experiencing. And it was a very early age to be exposed to that. So I was able to kind of like recognize the stark differences. And I think from that time, something inside of me like woke up and I was like, holy smokes, there are people all over the world living completely different lives from what I know. And I want more of that.
I can attest to that as well, of traveling, I would say late. The first time I was ever on a plane, I think I was 16 with my aunt. We went to, and her daughter and her friends, we went to Vegas. That was my first time on a plane at 16. Pretty late. In terms of you, do you consider that you were a late traveler, or did you guys travel in the States? Like, what was going on there?
So this it's interesting that to hear you say like traveling at 16 is late, because what this statistic just came out, it's like 68% of Americans don't even have a passport, right? So like I would love to see the statistics on the number or percentage of Americans who have actually been on a plane, because I think it's probably surprisingly small as well. So no, I don't consider that to be late at all. Like there are people who clearly are like never starting. Yeah, I think most people probably, it's late if you've been making your own money and like you've been in your adult career for probably like more than 10 years and you still haven't traveled. Like that I would consider to be late. But growing up, like because my dad lived in New York and my mom was in, the rest of my family, we were in South Carolina, like I was getting on planes like by myself from the age of like 9.
Okay.
So, but that was like back in the, I don't know if they still do this, but like back in the day, you could like put a kid on a plane and then the airline attendants, like they had this system where like they would usher you to like wherever you need to be. I think they may still do that.
They do. 100%.
Okay. So, yeah, I was kind of doing airline travel from a pretty young age, but no, 16, I don't think that's not late.
The reason I consider it late, and you can attest to this as well, you know, when we see our white counterparts, as much as we've traveled and you see those little kids, in the bigger scheme of things, maybe you're correct. If we look at, you know, across the board, America, as people traveling or not, I just tend to think of those young kids that we see on the plane all the time.
Fair. That's
so in
fair.
terms of that, even if it wasn't plane rides, did you guys travel as a family, like in the States, driving around?
We would do, like my mom, actually, she really enjoys travel. So we would go to like Tennessee. We would go to like the Rocky Mountains and the Appalachian. We would do all the domestic travel, right? Like within a certain radius. Like I don't know that we were doing any road trip that required more than from South Carolina to New York.
Okay.
So that's like something like 12, 13 hours.
Yep.
You can cover a lot. You can cover a lot in that. So
the East Coast, yeah.
Florida, just different places, but definitely getting outside of just what Columbia, South Carolina.
Sure. That's amazing, because the message I try to get across to a lot of people, which is in my book as well, my travel book, I want to convey to people, don't only think that you do have to take a plane to go somewhere. You can explore places that are close by.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, even 20 minutes away from where you live, you can just have another world.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it just is mind boggling. Like, you could, any hood in America, you go 20 minutes outside of it, you'll be in a different place. So just trying to show people those little things matter, because they'll show you things that you didn't think were tangible, reachable. Until this day, I've never taken a family trip. But the only thing is, I was happy years ago, I was able to take my father we went to San Francisco and New Orleans on one trip.
Mm-hmm.
Then I pulled him all the way to Japan and the Philippines.
Nice.
Which is amazing, because I can say, because of me, he's been on the plane that long, because he's used to going from like New York to maybe Haiti or Florida to Haiti. That's not a long flight.
Yeah.
So when I pull you over all the way to Asia, now we're cooking with grease. That was pretty cool. I was happy to do that for him, and hopefully we can do that more in the future. So you're in Bali, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So how does your dad feel about you being so far?
So they have different perspectives. Like my dad, because he moved from Nigeria to the United States, like he has a completely different perspective, where when I told him I was moving to Bali, he said, "Oh gosh, we're going to lose you forever." Because that's basically what he did, right? Like he never moved back, although he still has visions and plans to move back to Nigeria. He hasn't done it yet, right? And so he knows we're very similar, and he's like, "Ooh, the way you're set up, if you're anything like me, like once you get out there, you're probably not coming back." My mom, she recognizes that like I'm happier than I've ever been. Like, of course, she's seen me through all my phases of life, through like my crazy corporate days and like all of that. But she's like, okay, the mom in her wants me to come back, but then also the mom in her is like, gosh, you're happy, so whatever, just be happy out there, but hopefully you come back and rebuild a life in the States sometime soon. But they're both very supportive, just in different ways.
That's funny. No matter, people's background, that's always the plan, especially if they come from a place where it's tough, they come here for opportunities. The plan is to always go back. That's standard. And
there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because if they have money and they're back home, they're good. They're comfortable. And it's your culture, you're familiar. That is just funny how that's the case. And then, like you said, with some people, over time, they might be like, oh, maybe that's not the way. Maybe they get discouraged, or maybe the country's not advancing the way they would hope. Those things happen. It's incredible.
Outside of Nigeria, my first trip was the Bahamas.
Okay.
And it was a spring break trip, because I went to Florida. I went to Florida A&M, FAMU Rattlers.
Whoop, whoop.
And yeah, it was just like I don't know if it was like a very common thing, but my year, it was like my sophomore spring break, freshman spring break, I spent on campus, which was like, I don't even know how that happened or why that happened. Very foolish move. Like no one was there. It was miserable. But I was like, sophomore year, I'm going to make the best of it, and I'm going to like actually take full advantage. And so I went to the Bahamas with my friends, and there was like this company that was like organizing everything. So there were like tons of people from our school and like different HBCUs who went that spring break. And it was phenomenal. Like I almost look back like, oh my gosh, who lets a 19-year-old just like go traipsing off to the Bahamas, no less, to like just live it up and do whatever for a full week. It was kind of insane. We have really great stories from that experience.
When I first started my travel journey, I did a few places in the US. I used to go to Atlanta. I was covering like the big places that you just wanted to get out of the way, Cali, Florida. And then I was like, oh, let me screw this. Let me put that on pause. Then I started going to the UK and just little by little just started branching out. It seems like we're the same age. When did you start? When was that time frame of you starting on that travel journey?
I actually started in 2000. Like my real travel journey started in 2008.
Oh my God. Me too.
Nice.
That's serious.
Like before, I mean, there was no Instagram back then. Facebook was kind of just becoming a real thing. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't really have camera phones or anything spectacular like that. But I did a study abroad in Paris.
Wow.
And during that study abroad, like I did Europe like it was going out of business.
Sure.
I went to so many places in Europe. Like every weekend, I was either on a plane or like Ryanair.
I know Ryanair.
Spirit of Europe.
Yes.
The spirit of Europe, they don't give any Fs.
Yep.
But yeah, we are either on a plane or a train every single weekend to like the next nearest country.
February 18, 2008, I started working with the airline. And I only knew one person that worked there growing up, but I didn't know the details about it. You know, growing up, you thought, oh, maybe they get discounts. I didn't really know how it worked. I had like a 30-day probation period, X, Y, and Z that passed. And then I started learning, oh, we can fly. Oh, we can fly in the States for free? Oh, we can go abroad and just pay taxes, which is free? Oh, let me start doing this. So I was the only one traveling. People would laugh at me for going to Japan for 2 days and going over here. I'm like, look at these idiots. And like you said, back in those days, I used to use those calculators to convert the money. I was just documenting my journey and not even posting it, because it's like, where would you post back then?
Yep.
Facebook. I wasn't really heavy on Facebook. I had a page, but I wasn't really going hard as far as posting. I was just documenting and transferring those things on my laptop so I can show family and friends like, hey, you need to start coming and exploring the world like I am. So that's pretty much how my journey started off, pretty much working for the airline and just saying, oh, wow, I can use this to just do what like rich people do and just get out there. And, you know, that was that. And then I just went crazy with it.
Like, I can't even imagine, literally, like, I can't even fathom if someone plopped me down inside of an airline and told me, oh, you only have to pay, like, I would have been on a plane every single day that I had off. Like, oh, Paris for a day, 12 hours in Paris, let's do it.
That was my life. I mean, like, you know how many days I stared at the board? Yo, where am I going? I have no clue. And then like a couple hours, I'm somewhere else. That was my whole life.
That's amazing.
For like a decade.
There are people still today who laugh. Imagine. Yeah. Like, and now travel is actually like popular. I think because we're kind of we're in that travel community and we're in that travel ring, we think it's even more normalized than it is still. But there are still, to this day, like, I always go back to the US for like at least a month every year, a month or 6 weeks or something like that. And I was back and like I went to like the dentist because I like to get one of my cleanings in the States. I get one of them in Bali and I like to get one in the States. And like the receptionist there was like, so why would you want to try, like, why though? And I was just like, I was flabbergasted to be even getting that question in 2019. Like, how can someone be asking me this?
It's always funny too when you do go to another country, and they ask you, yo, why are you here?
They can't see the jewel that they're sitting on top of.
Why are you here in Albania? I'm like, yo, I'm trying to see the world. I'm trying to see what's out here, like what the world has to offer. So you've been traveling since 2008, just like myself. When did you have like that switch, or that, okay, I'm just doing it for fun, I'm going to make it into a business? When did that occur?
So for me, I've always spent my entire career has been corporate. So I worked at Chevron. I was a financial analyst. I was an internal auditor. I was an external auditor. Then I left Chevron. I went to get my MBA. And then after my MBA, I went to work at like the second largest consulting, well, I should say second most prestigious consulting firm in the world, because it's not the second largest. And so I left the consulting world, and that's when I was like, okay, it's finally time to start my entrepreneurial journey. I didn't necessarily have the intention of going into travel as like the business that I would pursue, but I knew when I left that job that I was going to be starting my own business.